A destitute French priest mysteriously amasses a king's fortune.
The legend is quite extraordinary.
Did he uncover a treasure or a secret worth far more than gold?
When a story is too dangerous to be told, it's often conveyed as myth or story instead of fact.
Behind the myth, a mysterious order of the world's most famous men.
A secret society presiding over a secret that has lasted for 2,000 years.
Their secret, the Holy Grail itself. And a controversial story of Jesus' relationship with Mary Magdalene.
There was a blood descent from Jesus, and so he must have married and had a wife.
Leonardo da Vinci's painting of the Last Supper, a priceless mural that recounts one of history's most famous moments. Christ and the apostles sharing a meal the night before his crucifixion. But in Dan Brown's blockbuster novel, The Da Vinci Code, that Renaissance masterpiece also contains a secret. Look carefully at that beardless figure to the right of Jesus, long thought to be the disciple John. In this alternate history, that's no mere male disciple, but rather Leonardo's depiction of Jesus' secret wife. The clue found in the M shape created by the two figures in the center. M for marriage.
The fact that Dan Brown could find a way to make that palatable and to put it on everyone's bedside table, it's a miracle.
Stairs over there, we've got...
The novel certainly grabbed the world's attention.
Welcome to Walks of Paris. This is Da Vinci Code tour.
One reason it may resonate so loudly, in the view of scholar Margaret Starbird, is that its controversial thesis that Jesus had a wife and even children may not be pure fantasy.
When a story is too dangerous to be told, it's often conveyed as myth or story instead of fact.
Is it plausible that he could have been married? Is it plausible that there could have been children? And our conclusion was yes, it is plausible.
Indeed, some of the story of the Da Vinci Code has been told before as history.
When the Da Vinci Code appeared initially, everybody had forgotten about the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail.
This book, The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, is creating a controversy in Great Britain.
Richard Lee is one of 3 co-authors of Holy Blood, Holy Grail, The Secret History of Jesus, The Shocking Legacy of the Grail. Like the sleuths in the novel, Lee, Henry Lincoln, and Michael Bagent comb through the historical record to come up with what they say are clues to the secret life of Jesus.
The evidence suggested that he was married or at least had a sexual relation with Mary Magdalene. Out of this sexual union, there probably would have been children. According to church tradition, the Magdalene escaped to the south of France after the crucifixion.
A provocative hypothesis, but how do they arrive at such a radical conclusion? It begins humbly enough.
All we attempted to do was answer certain gnawing questions pertaining to a mystery in the south of France.
They set out to unravel the ancient mystery of the treasure of Rennes-le-Château, a tiny hamlet in the south of France. It's one of those mysteries that has long fascinated people. For generations, there have been rumors here about the source of a great fortune. Everything from ancient buried treasure to hush money paid by European power brokers to keep a secret.
People love the idea that there are mysterious, large, unexplained amounts of money. And the reason this works so well in Rennes-le-Château is that undoubtedly a lot of money was spent there.
Archaeologist Bill Putnam believes the money is spent around the turn of the last century by this man, Father Berenger Saunière, the pastor of this tiny church, dedicated, interestingly enough, to Mary Magdalene.
The legend is quite extraordinary. If you just look at him, he starts as a very poor priest. His church is falling apart.
In the spring of 1888, the young priest begins a small renovation project at the church.
He knocked over the flat altarpiece which was resting on two columns. Inside the hollow column, he is alleged to have found some parchments rolled up as scrolls.
Life for Sonier changes dramatically. His construction is soon fit for a king. He renovates his church, erects a giant library tower, and builds a promenade and a large villa with formal gardens. In the new mansion, he lives and entertains like royalty with his faithful and much younger housekeeper.
Between then and his death in 1917, Sonier spent a staggering sum of money, something like £37 million. The obvious question is, where did the money come from? What was it he discovered in the hollow pillar? What was in the parchments that led to this fabulous wealth? Did he discover a treasure, or did he discover a secret?
What exactly could Sonier have found?
There were numerous legends of treasure hidden in the area.
Whatever the source of his money, Sonier is soon living large for a small parish priest, spending millions while entertaining the rich and famous. Year after year, Sonier's bishop demands to know the source of the sudden fortune. But Sonier never tells, even after he's suspended from his priestly duties. Sonier continues to live in the villa with his housekeeper until his death in 1917.
She looked after him till he died, and she kept his secrets and knew his secrets.
The housekeeper lives alone in the villa for nearly 40 years until her death in 1953. Although she hints at a secret that will make its possessor both wealthy and powerful, she never reveals it, taking it to her grave beside Sonier's in the churchyard cemetery. Fast forward 30 years and find Richard Lee and his cohorts on the trail of the treasure of Rennes-le-Château. They are pointed toward those parchments Sonier stumbled across in the church remodeling.
These parchments contain secret messages.
Thus begins a tale far more intriguing than any mere earthly treasure hunt. The story of an ancient and illustrious bloodline coursing through the kings of France and back across millennia to Mary Magdalene and Jesus of Nazareth.
The great mystery is, did he have children? People are utterly fascinated by this idea. You're in a very powerful position if you've got that secret.
The search for the secret treasure of Rennes-le-Château and the attempt to discover just how that impoverished priest with a tiny parish in the south of France became extraordinarily rich soon lead to the French National Library in Paris. There, Lee's research partner Henry Lincoln uncovers the secret documents by a mysterious author writing under the pseudonym of Henri Laboneau. Elsewhere in Paris, Lincoln gets a glimpse of what are purported to be the two parchments believed to be those discovered by Father Sonier while remodeling his church.
I was able to decipher one of the messages.
At first, the deciphered parchment makes little sense. It reads, "To Dagobert II and to Sion belongs the treasure, and it is death." Dagobert II was a French king of the Merovingian dynasty who had been assassinated in 679. Is this French king somehow related to the treasure of Rennes-le-Château? And are Lincoln and his colleagues on its trail? Before long, that trail will lead them to a radical reinterpretation of the story of Jesus and his relationship with the woman known to history as Mary Magdalene. As they keep digging through the documents, they find something suspicious, references to a secret society.
We encountered documents pertaining to an organization called the Prieuré de Sion.
The priory appears intertwined with the mystery of Rennes-le-Château, references to it popping up throughout the centuries. The clues are obvious, if one knows where to look. You can find the word Sion in the unusual line breaks in one parchment, and see PS, an abbreviation for Priory of Sion. And there were other leads in the secret documents, including references establishing a link between the secret Priory of Sion and the storied Knights Templar, who during the Crusades protected Jerusalem and were thought by some to be the keepers of the Holy Grail.
The Knights Templar, we are told by the documents coming from the Priory, are created as the Priory's own administrative and executive arm.
But the most explosive revelation from those French archives is at first the most ordinary, a simple family tree going back for centuries.
Page after page after page of genealogies establishing the Merovingian, or the continuation of the Merovingian dynasty.
In that genealogy, the ancient line of French kings that included the assassinated Dagobert II. Lincoln and his colleagues uncover another fascinating secret document, a manuscript listing the Grand Masters of that shadowy Order of Sion. Lincoln first reveals the prior's elite members in this documentary.
Victor Hugo, Jean Cocteau, Leonardo da Vinci, Isaac Newton. Some of these names are so illustrious that the list seemed just the sort of grandiose pedigree that would be created for itself by a lunatic fringe body of eccentrics playing at secret societies. But it's all too easy to make assumptions and not to keep an open mind.
This clandestine order's roster of leaders, some of the most famous men in history, runs from the 12th century to the 20th. Its reason for being? The protection, preservation, and restoration of the Merovingian bloodline laid out in those secret genealogies. It is a puzzling mission.
What can be so bloody special about the Merovingian bloodline? It was an attempt to answer that question that led us on a quest even further back into biblical history.
It's then that Lincoln makes what he believes is a critical connection between the Holy Grail, believed for centuries to be the chalice used by Jesus at the Last Supper, and that Merovingian family tree that the Priory of Sion was so dedicated to protecting. The Holy Grail, Lincoln theorizes, is not a chalice, but instead that Merovingian bloodline, a bloodline descending from Jesus himself.
The Holy Grail had to be the blood descent. This implied that there was a blood descent from Jesus, and so he must have married and had a wife. There's only one candidate for that role, and that is Mary Magdalene.
Mary Magdalene, one of the most mysterious and alluring figures from the New Testament, believed to have been born in the small fishing village of Magdala on the west shore of the Sea of Galilee. In church tradition, she is often depicted with flowing red hair, and for centuries was thought to have been a fallen woman, a prostitute, until Jesus casts out her demons and she becomes one of his followers.
Jesus Christ was probably married.
Scholar Margaret Starbird has studied Mary Magdalene extensively and thinks it possible that Mary Magdalene may have been married to Jesus.
It's the greatest story never told. And it resonates in our core. I think the fact that there's something that we weren't told that has such momentous implications for the whole world, it's an amazing story.
Even more amazing, the idea that Jesus fathered a child with Mary Magdalene. And there is evidence Mary and Jesus were intimate, Starbird says, pointing to the secret Gnostic Gospel of Philip, part of a set of ancient parchments found in the Egyptian desert that some scholars believe should be included in the New Testament. In Philip's Gospel, Mary Magdalene is depicted as the most prominent apostle and particularly close to Jesus.
Philip's Gospel says that Jesus kissed Mary often, and the other disciples were jealous. So whatever kind of kissing he was doing caused people to be unhappy.
But the evidence does not come just from this Gnostic gospel. It's also found in a folk legend about Mary Magdalene, told to this day in the south of France.
Mary Magdalene, traveling with her brother Lazarus and several other friends of the family, leave the persecutions in Israel and flee in a boat with no oars. They end up on the shores of France in 42 AD. And with them they brought the Holy Grail.
What Mary brought was her daughter, a child named Sarah, and perhaps another child in her womb.
So the Grail then, instead of being the artifact, it's actually the vessel of the bloodline. That is the mother or the child.
Every year, this French coastal town commemorates the arrival of Mary Magdalene with the child Sarah.
We then suggest that she found refuge in one of many well-established Judaic communities in the region, probably in the vicinity of Rennes-le-Château. She perpetuated her lineage for some 400 years.
And many of the faithful believe Mary Magdalene is buried in this tomb in another nearby French town.
It's the great secret of the Middle Ages. The great secret was that Jesus was fully human and that he was a husband and father.
For the modern seekers of the Holy Grail, Father Saunier's treasure may well be his discovery of that genealogy.
Sometime around the late 5th century, there is evidence that the Judaic family, presumably the Magdalenes, intermarried with the royal line of the Franks to produce the Merovingian dynasty. In consequence, the Merovingians are lineal descendants of Jesus.
And what of those descendants of Jesus? Are they among us today? Amazingly, Lee and his cohorts discover a lead to the Priory of Sion in the 20th century. A lead that will take them to an enigmatic Frenchman who may offer the key, not only to the treasure of Rennes-le-Château, but the living legacy of Jesus. After they establish the possibility that Jesus may have heirs, the researchers putting together Holy Blood, Holy Grail are eager to find just who those heirs are.
If there is a lineal descent from Jesus, there would be not just a few descendants, there would be tens of thousands.
They find evidence suggesting that the bloodline stemming from Jesus and Mary Magdalene might indeed survive. Guided by those decoded secret parchments and the extensively detailed genealogies found in the French National Library, the investigators theorize a centuries-old cover-up. The idea that Jesus had heirs threatens not only the faith of millions of Christians, but also one of the most powerful organizations in world history, the Vatican.
The idea of a secret society presiding over a secret that has lasted for 2,000 years, and that stands in a kind of romantic, heroic even opposition to the tyranny of the Church of Rome.
That's why the Priory of Sion has been so secretive through the centuries, they surmise. It's also why, if Father Saunier had indeed found this proof of a holy bloodline, this knowledge may have been valuable. It's all an elaborate theory for Lee and his colleagues, until the 1970s, when they make a startling break in their investigation. They uncover evidence of the Priory's existence in the mid-20th century. French law demands that all organizations in the country be registered. In that registry, Lee's cohorts find an amazing document. Filed in the 1950s, this document reports the formation and organization of a Priory of Sion. Its self-described aim? To found a Catholic order with the intention of recreating in modern form while preserving its traditional character, an ancient knighthood. The charter claims the Priory has more than 8,000 members.
Whoever or whatever the 1956 organization were or are, they have an inside track to their medieval forebears.
The paper trail yields a critical clue, a short-lived publication edited by one Pierre Plantard. For investigator Henry Lincoln, this Plantard is a key player in the mystery.
We know that Monsieur Plantard in 1956 registered an organization in a town called Annemasse, which called itself the Priory of Zion.
And the researchers have seen that name Plantard before, back in those secret genealogies uncovered in the National Library.
Plantard states that his real surname is Plantard de Saint Clair, one of the oldest of the families in the genealogies, claiming Merovingian descent.
Could this middle-aged Parisian, by all outward appearances a mild-mannered mid-level bureaucrat, hold the key to the centuries-old mystery? And is he indeed an heir to the throne of France and a descendant of Jesus himself? Those ancient genealogies lead right to him and his family. And when they track down this Monsieur Plantard, his polished manner intrigues the investigators.
Very, very knowledgeable, not only of French history, but esoterica, literary history, history of painting. He was enormously erudite, rather introspective.
After months of negotiation, Plantard agrees to talk. Finally, they are face to face with a living link to the mysterious Priory of Sion. While filming this British documentary, Henry Lincoln presses Plantard on the secret treasure of Rennes-le-Château and the Priory of Sion.
Will the treasure of Rennes-le-Château ever be found?
Let us say quite simply that there is a secret in Rennes-le-Château, and that it is possible there is something else around Rennes-le-Château.
Can you tell us whether the Priory of Zion still exists today?
At this moment, Sion still exists.
Monsieur Plantard, over the centuries you have, how shall I put it, you have supported the Priory of Zion.
We have supported Sion, and Sion has supported us.
We? Who are we?
We. I am speaking of the Merovingian line.
The elusive and elliptical Pierre Plantard will say no more about the treasure of Rennes-le-Château, his possible royal ancestry, and the overarching mystery of Jesus, Mary Magdalene, and the Merovingians.
It's important to remember that Plantard himself never mentioned Jesus. He never claimed descent from Jesus. We put that together. All Plantard ever claimed was descent from the Merovingians.
So where had Father Saunier's treasure to build that church back in Rennes-le-Château come from? If indeed he had learned the secret of the Holy Bloodline, just how did he turn that into the fantastic wealth he displayed in his tiny parish? The wealth that lay at the heart of the mystery of Rennes-le-Château. Lee thinks he knows the source. A European royal family who paid off Saunier in an effort to hide its connection to the divine bloodline. Pierre Plantard dies in 2000, but there are hints the Priory of Sion still remains. Holy Blood, Holy Grail is published in 1982. It's a huge hit. Copies of the book fly out of the stores. It's provocative, thrilling, and dead wrong on its basic premise. Or so most biblical scholars say. Bart Ehrman is head of the Religious Studies Department at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill.
This is one of those instances where conspiracy theory is sort of like a house of cards. If the bottom cards aren't very stable, then the whole thing collapses. And this is a case where it's not just that the bottom cards aren't stable, the bottom cards aren't even there.
It's a crock of nonsense.
Laura Miller is a journalist who has researched the claims in Holy Blood, Holy Grail.
It's got a kind of genius in that it seems so authoritative, but when you really look at it closely, it just dissolves into nothing.
The author's evidence for the central idea that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married lies in those long-buried Gnostic Gospels, books that didn't make it into the Bible.
They contain information about Jesus that you don't find in the New Testament. And so for somebody who wants to write a conspiracy theory, they're perfect because they provide just the ammunition you need.
Vital ammunition comes from the Gospel of Philip. One passage seems particularly powerful. It says Christ loved her, Mary Magdalene, more than all the disciples, and used to kiss her often on her mouth. It looks like compelling evidence that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were intimate. But Ehrman says, look again, because the Gospel of Philip is an ancient manuscript full of holes.
The way the passage actually reads is, now Jesus, and there's a gap there in the manuscript, Mary Magdalene, and used to, gap, kiss her, frequently, gap, on her gap. And so it looks like Jesus is kissing Mary, but we're not sure where, presumably on some body part.
But even with the gaps, this passage does say the kissing is frequent, which makes the idea of a holy union seem plausible. Until the scholars weigh in. Apparently, early Christians often kissed each other on the mouth. It had nothing to do with sex. These kisses symbolized a revelation from God.
So when Jesus kisses Mary, all that means is that Jesus gave Mary a revelation, which is something that we know about from other Gnostic texts. It doesn't mean that they were married with children. It simply means that she was one of his disciples that he revealed truth to.
Images of Mary Magdalene show a strong woman and a devout follower. For centuries, she was dismissed as a reformed prostitute. But what do we really know of her? The New Testament tells us that Jesus cast out her demons, and that she accompanied him on his travels, that she was there at his feet when he was crucified. Karen King teaches ecclesiastical history at Harvard.
Mary Magdalene had to be the most important woman in Jesus' life, perhaps other than his mother.
She says another of those Gnostic Gospels, this one called, fittingly, the Gospel of Mary, makes it clear why. And King says it's not because of sex.
If we look at the Gospel of Mary, the reason seems to be precisely that she understood his teaching. She had appropriated it. It's a kind of love that does not indicate particularly any kind of sexual relationship. It really indicates that she was the disciple who understood.
In the New Testament, Mary Magdalene plays a key role after the crucifixion. She is the first to see the resurrected Jesus. But most academics, as well as the Catholic Church, reject the idea that the scene in the garden in the Gospel of John reveals an intimacy that only husband and wife would share.
She says to him, Rabboni, which means something like my master. She doesn't, by the way, say, hubby or dearest. It's, she's his disciple, not his lover or wife.
Still, the theory of a holy union fascinates, and it endures. Perhaps because nowhere, not in the New Testament, and not in any other Christian document, is Jesus' marital status clarified. Most experts say that's because there never was a marriage.
There's no evidence of Jesus being married at all. In fact, there's pretty good evidence that Jesus was single and celibate, as were other male Jews in his day.
But the silence on the subject leaves it wide open to interpretation.
Silence is pregnant with many, many kinds of meanings.
And in silence, conspiracy theories flourish. One hypothesis begets another.
That's sort of how they work. They say, well, why wouldn't he be married? And let's say he was married. Well, if he was married, there probably would be kids. And somehow you get from the fact that Jesus wasn't married to Jesus had kids.
In Holy Blood, Holy Grail, Lee and his colleagues write, the possibility of a bloodline descended directly from Jesus gained considerable plausibility. For them, perhaps, but not for biblical scholars like Ehrman. He says there's not a shred of evidence to prove it.
not only is this not found in any gospel, it's not found in any Christian writing of any kind in the early church.
Most experts agree, if there had been a marriage and a child, the secret could not and would not have been kept.
Because Jesus' relatives, after his death, became very important for the Christian church. If Jesus had a child, this child would, of course, eventually have taken over some kind of leadership role in the church. But that didn't happen. It's because Jesus didn't have a child.
Unless, as some believe, he fathered a child he didn't live to see. A child who gave rise to a sacred bloodline. Rennes-le-Château is ground zero for those who believe in a holy bloodline descended from Jesus. So it is here that critics have focused their efforts. But it is no easy thing to take the air out of the hugely popular theory.
It sets up this mysterious circumstance in this church in the south of France and turns it into this huge, working backwards, this huge mystery about the whole foundation of Western culture and civilization and the most powerful religion on the planet.
Archaeologist Bill Putnam has spent years tracking down any evidence to support what he calls the greatest hoax he's ever seen.
It all starts with this priest.
Father Berenger Saunière, the penniless priest who suddenly, inexplicably, comes into a fortune. Conspiracy theorists believe Saunière makes a startling discovery as he renovates this church.
The story goes that he found 4 documents in a hollow in the altar.
Those documents, it is whispered, lead the priest to a buried treasure. Or do they? Putnam says that couldn't have happened. Because there are no secret documents. There is no buried treasure.
He might have found a sort of foundation deposit or a time capsule. He took it and showed it to the mayor, and people knew he'd done that.
So the story had legs because local people knew the priest had shown something to the mayor.
And this provides the trigger for Pierre Plantard.
Enter Pierre Plantard, a modest man with grand dreams. Putnam calls him a fantasy worker.
His main theme was to prove this fantasy, and he is constantly looking for ways to prove it.
Plantard's fantasy? That he is no mere civil servant, but the heir apparent to the ancient Merovingian dynasty. He seizes on the tale of the priest and the documents and the mysterious fortune, and creates a story in which Saunière finds genealogies that point to Plantard himself.
What he found was actually 2 genealogies and 2 documents in code.
But Putnam says those intricate genealogies tracing the royal Merovingians are actually fabrications by Plantard to bolster the story that he's a king in waiting.
Plantard traces himself back to the Merovingian kings, carefully choosing Dagobert II, who is the Merovingian king that we know least about. There's not too much danger of colliding with actual history.
Plantard goes to enormous lengths to make his fantasy credible. He creates an elaborate set of papers and deposits them in the French National Library.
It's documents called les dossiers secrets, supposedly by a man called Henri Lobineau. In fact, it's Plantard.
So Plantard forges a family tree, and his deception doesn't stop there. He also invents that secret society, the powerful Priory of Sion. Its job? To protect the Merovingian dynasty. He includes what amounts to a hall of fame from centuries past.
he writes a document in which he lists the Grand Masters of the Priory of Zion, supposedly starting back in the 11th century.
But perhaps the fantasy worker overplays his hand.
He puts every famous person he can possibly think of in this list. And it is, of course, beyond belief that all these great people should have been chairmen of this society holding this great secret.
The records show that a society called the Priory of Zion actually did exist. But it was created in the 1950s by Plantar himself.
So you can say it was a real organization, but, that's like forming a club called Hogwarts School of Wizardry and saying Hogwarts School of Wizardry exists, even if it's just me and you and the kid next door. And we're not wizards.
But Plantar is not the only person written into the Merovingian dynasty. Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene were also inserted into the family tree, Putnam says, by the authors of Holy Blood, Holy Grail. Their inspiration? The medieval legend that had Mary Magdalene and her child finding refuge in the south of France.
Henry Lincoln picks up this story and makes much of it and says that Béranger knew about this. It was a great secret.
That great secret rockets the author's book onto bestseller lists.
The story is so attractive and so exciting to those who like mysteries and the unusual and perhaps who want to annoy the Catholic Church and so forth, that it's a riotous success.
Except that much of it is fiction, according to Miller. She calls it pseudo-history.
There are all these things that look like facts that you can't possibly check, and then there are these wild castles of guesswork that the theories are based on, that you just have to be impressed with the kind of daring and shamelessness of the theories that they build out of these ridiculous, completely uncheckable facts.
As for Saunier and his fortune, there was no buried treasure, no hush money from the Vatican, and none from European power brokers, because there was no valuable secret. Evidence shows the priest accepted money for religious services he never held, a scandal that got him suspended from that magnificent pulpit he reconstructed. Despite the evidence, however, true believers remain, and their theories endure. The ideas that Lee, Lincoln, and Bajan develop find a wide and eager audience when they are published in 1982. But it's in 2003, when some similar ideas appear in Dan Brown's novel, The Da Vinci Code, that the concept of a secret history of Jesus really takes off. A novel is a publishing phenomenon.
Now, if anybody's read the Da Vinci Code, this church features in the story when somebody tries to scatter some ashes.
Fans swarm across Europe, lining up to see locations in the novel. From Paris to Milan, home of Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper, that masterpiece of art and innuendo. The M for marriage, the beardless disciple. Those clues that shout out secret in Dan Brown's work of fiction. Most scholars and journalists dismiss them as nonsense.
If the truth is that Leonardo da Vinci was in an organization that was so secret and that had secrets to guard that were so important, then why would he be planting clues about them in his paintings?
If the Da Vinci Code is based on elements of fake history, similar elements first appeared in Holy Blood, Holy Grail. But even the most rigorous critics say the authors of Holy Blood, Holy Grail get the mark on some things.
They do get right that Christianity developed over time, and that later Christianity doesn't correspond to what Christianity was at the earliest period. That's absolutely right.
And Ehrman says they're on the right track when they say Jesus does have relationships with women that are striking for a first-century Jewish rabbi. Ehrman objects to where the authors go from there.
They're wrong when they transfer that into a relationship with Mary Magdalene where they're married and have babies.
That idea, says Ehrman, owes more to a 20th century sensibility than it does to historical truth.
In fact, in the early church, it wouldn't have been explosive at all, because Jesus in the early church wasn't understood to be God, who couldn't, of course, have a marital relationship with a woman.
How could the authors of Holy Blood, Holy Grail get it so wrong? Could it be that they were duped themselves? Archaeologist Bill Putnam believes the answer may be yes, if the book is any guide.
As far as the book goes, as far as the words you read, they are completely taken in by it.
While Putnam believes the authors were taken in, Ehrman, for his part, says they knew exactly what they were doing.
They're not trying to make it a bestseller among scholars. They're trying to make it a bestseller among people who don't know any better, which is the vast majority of the public.
And the authors themselves? Richard Lee says they were floating a hypothesis.
It is something plausible. It is more plausible that a man should lay claim to a throne, should be married and have children, than that he should be born of a virgin, walk on water, and rise from the dead. It's that simple.
The other key player in this elaborate deception is, of course, Pierre Plantard. He dies in 2000, but lives long enough to see the impact of his imagination at work. Putnam says that over the years, Plantard probably convinced himself of the truth of his lies.
I think originally he knew that he was creating something, but later in his life, it's just taken him over.
But if he is not a king in waiting, then who is this man?
He was the son of a butler and a cook.
A knowledgeable man, steeped in history. But he is also convicted of fraud and embezzlement, his life going nowhere, until his deception starts paying dividends.
He was an obscure guy, and he wanted to glorify himself, and he loved putting himself in the center of this mystery and pretending that he didn't want to talk about it. But that was just part of the game for him. I mean, this made his life incredibly exciting.
Eventually, the excitement over Holy Blood, Holy Grail dies down, only to be resurrected when the Da Vinci Code appears. It spawns an industry dedicated to digging out its errors. Ehrman wrote one of those books himself. Even so, he still comes across people who continue to believe that Mary Magdalene and Jesus were married.
I think it's because it is so contrary to anything they've ever heard that they like things that are against the established church and that are hidden up and covered up with conspiracy theory, and so it just kind of inherently makes sense. So much so that evidence doesn't matter anymore.
At the crossroads of faith and legend, of what might have been and what probably was, the door to speculation stands wide open. In the end, it comes down to a choice between a centuries-old story of a man and a woman and a best-selling saga which turns that story on its head.